ILWPOD. I'm your host, as always, Justin Wright. Today I'm welcomed here with the diamond in the rough, Quintero. How we doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
Blessed to be here. Something I'm excited for. We've chatted a little bit, tried to work this out. Finally, we got through both of our schedules, so we're here.
Yep, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Before we get into the thick of the questions, is there any social media accounts or like merchandise, anything like that you want to shout out?
All my merch is on my Big Cartel website. There's a link to it on my Instagram and my Facebook. My Facebook's is just Rafael Quintero. My Instagram is the Rafael Quintero, and my Twitter is the Real Quintero. Other than that, yeah, that's all my socials.
Okay. I always start in the same place when it comes to these podcasts, especially with wrestlers. We all fell in love with wrestling along the way somewhere. What's your story? When did you find it?
So I grew up in a home with a bunch of my cousins when I was growing up, and I had a cousin who was older than me, and she was like, "Yeah, there's this guy named John Cena on TV. He wrestles, and I didn't know what wrestling was." And she put on the USA Network, and it was Monday Night Raw, and he was a WWE champion at that time. He had the spinner belt, and that was like my first ever glance at wrestling. Before that, I would see a couple of like Lucha Libre stuff, like La Parca and all of them, but I didn't get into it until I saw like John Cena and like Raw and WWE and all that. But that was my first ever like look into wrestling. That's kind of where I got attached to it ever since then.
Okay. Upon doing some research, it said that you was born in Mexico. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Mexico.
So when did you move to the US?
Uh, right when I was born, it was pretty fast. I wasn't there for
Okay.
that.
So all your like wrestling experience has been pretty much in the United States then?
Yeah, my whole life has been over here. I was barely over there.
Okay. Um, what was it like growing up in the, Chicagoland area and, being a fan?
Yeah. So I grew up in Belvedere in the Rockford area, in the 115 area. I was there my whole life until I moved out, and because before wrestling, I was a BMX rider, and I was like sponsored and everything, and that was like what I did for a long time. And I've done sports my whole life, but BMX is the one that kind of took me a little far. And I moved out closer to Chicago so I can be in the bigger scene of BMX. And that's when I ended up getting sponsored and stuff and getting hooked up by brands. And yeah, man. Then I ended up deciding I wanted to pursue wrestling because I always loved wrestling. I just never thought I'd do it. And then yeah, now we're here.
What what's it like trying to figure out the world of BMXing? Because it's definitely in that extreme sports category. So like it's got to be a challenge trying to figure out and navigate that sort of sporting environment.
Yeah. To me, man, it was just like a freedom thing. I just like doing it because all the kids in my neighborhood used to do it. And when I
Okay.
would do it, it was like I guess like a moment of freedom. Like I wasn't home. I got to go be a kid and ride my bike as fast as I can and do crazy stuff with it. So like I just liked it. It was like it was a form of freedom for me, I guess, as a young kid until I got older.
Did you ever get to do like any competitions or win
Yeah,
any sort of competitions or anything like that?
yeah. I did a lot of competitions in like BMX jams, which is like a form of a competition basically, and I actually won pretty most of them that I've gotten. And but yeah, man, that was kind of all I did with BMX. And I used to just film edits, which is like a little video, like montage of you writing. And that's what I used to do a lot. I used to just film and release edits, and that's like all I did. Like before wrestling, my Instagram was legit just BMX videos. That's all I would do.
Excuse me. When did you know like that you wanted to wrestle? Like what changed you from BMX to now I'm going to go into a wrestling ring?
Uh, so when I moved out to here where I live at now, I live in Berwyn, near close to Chicago. Um, I was living with a roommate of mine, who was like my friend for years. Me and him both BMX. He was like he'd film for me and edit my videos, and it came to a point where I was kind of just like not happy with BMXing anymore. I was far away from home, and like all the reason why I started BMXing was like with my friends, and those friends were gone now, and I was out an hour away from home, and there was just a moment where I had a convo with my roommate about how I just always wanted to take my mom out and take care of my family and stuff, and I knew that BMXing really wasn't going to help me with that, And I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to pursue something that I really wanted to do since I was a kid. And because before that, wrestling was like in talks. I just didn't know I was going to do it. And now I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do it. I want to go do it because I feel like I could become good at this. And then now we're here. That's legit. It was just one conversation with my roommate. If it wasn't for my roommate, Kyler, shout out him, I would have never pursued this.
Definitely. Um, when going into training, did you start training at the CSW Academy?
Yeah, I'm freshly from CSW, Chicago Star
Okay.
Wrestling. I'm trained by Steve Boz, Jason Hades, and Axel Rico as well.
Okay. I've actually had Axel on here. Great guy. I love Axel. What was it like, that going in and talking to them guys about, starting your training, and what was your probably first interaction with Boz?
I emailed the CSW, but then Boz gave me his number and he's like, "Let me call you." And we talked, and it was like having a conversation with like that dude I've known for years. I didn't even know him. He was just
Okay.
very friendly, and we were talking because we related on some stuff because his parents lived out in the Rockford area. And we related in that, and I was like, "Yeah, my family lives out there too." And yeah, man, I showed up one day and I remember seeing them train. And I legit was like, in my mind, I was like, "Yeah, I can do this. I can do this. I was born for this." And that's kind of the mentality I came into when I first started wrestling. I was just like, I feel like I could do this. I was born for this.
How long did you spend in like your like doing your formative training before you actually started doing matches?
I only trained for like 2 months, and then I had my first match.
Was it for CSW or is it for somewhere else?
It was for Galley.
Galley? Okay.
I had my first match at Galley Lucha Libre.
Do you remember who it was against and what that was like?
Yes, it was a 6-man tag. It was me with Funebre and Lady Tigres versus Ricky Cruz, Abba, and El Hijo del Enigma. And I was so scared because I was like, oh, I hope my first match one day is with people I know and it's a singles match. And it was a 6-man tag with nobody that I knew. So, great moment. And it was like a last minute, like, hey, kid, you got a spot. And yeah, that was that, man. And it was like such an easy, fun match. And I really appreciate all those people, especially Ricky Cruz, because he's a vet from St. Louis, Missouri, and shout out him, man, because he's a very cool guy. I think he made it very easy, and I think he was just a very nice guy that made me feel, I guess, comfortable in that match. And I was very, very scared. I didn't know any of these people in the ring with me.
Um, Working a six-man tag for your first match, does that present some challenges, especially of like communication?
A little bit, but not that much. I feel like I was just very comfortable, and I just knew what I was gonna do, and I also just trusted myself. Like there was a moment of fear, but the moment I was out there in that ring and that crowd was around me, I was kind of like, I got this. Like this is me. Just focus on me, and then yeah.
Remembering that experience, is it something that like now maybe helps, like if somebody comes up to you that's young and getting into the business and going in their first match, does like that experience help you maybe ease their feelings?
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel
Okay.
like we all relate in that one thing of like, oh, I'm scared, I'm nervous. I feel like every wrestler goes through that. Even now, I'm about to complete like 2 years wrestling, and even now, I'm still like, I still get nervous to go wrestle. I still get nervous and stuff. So yeah.
So you mentioned you're about 2 years in, maybe a little bit more or less, give or take.
Mm.
Um, you've already been able to accomplish so much in such little time. Like, do you feel that the sky is the limits when it comes to Quintero?
I feel like anything is possible in this world, man. I feel like if you believe that you can do something, you can do it as long as you put your mind to it and work hard for it. And I think uh, anything is possible for Quintero, man. I've always put my mind into it. I dedicate my life to this, and I believe Quintero will be something one day.
Definitely. As from seeing you in person, I have no doubt about it. That's why once I saw you in person, because I messaged you originally before I'd actually realized I've seen you. I saw you years ago, probably when you first started,
Yeah,
and then now I like as soon as I saw you, I was like, time out, I got to message him back. I got to get him on there because he's much better than I even realized. So just giving you some flowers while we're here.
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Of course. Speaking of Galley, though, it's somewhere like CSW you've been for, the bulk of your career, if not the whole time.
Mm.
Um, would you consider both of them kind of like home?
Yeah, I always Galley gave my first match, even though I was trained at CSW, but CSW and Galley are always home for me. Those are the two places where like I love those places, man. I'll forever shout out those places because Quintero wouldn't be Quintero if it wasn't for Galley, if it wasn't for CSW.
Um, were you given any kind of like additional training with Galley, or was your training just fundamentally from CSW?
I would go and train with a Galley once in a while when I had free days. I'd go and train there, but that was like a little bit after I trained at CSW. This is when I started debuting at Galley, started having matches with them. I started training with them here and there. Once in a while, I still go, but not as much now. But yeah, have learned a lot from Galley as well.
Do they teach more of like the Lucha Libre style?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Um, how long was it after your start at CSW of training until your debut? And what was that like?
Oh man, I think I was already a couple of months in. Some people weren't able to make the show, and I was supposed to have like a pre-show match or something, and then I get told like, "Hey, you're gonna debut tonight on the main card." And I remember I was like, "Oh crap! Like this is real, man." I was like so nervous and excited, but I knew like this is like I remember I kept telling myself before I went out, before my music hit, I was like, "This is what we trained for, man. This is what we wanted our whole life. Let's do it." And yeah, man, it was very nerve wracking. And now it's easy. So I mean, like, but it took a while to get on that CSW stuff. But now that I'm there, I'm like, it's awesome to see myself here, especially now that I'm their Metro Division champion. It's cool to see like the evolve.
Yeah. And it's been quite the road for you to get that title, which we'll get into, but you've definitely fought long and hard for that division championship, which it's great to see it. It has it's where it should be, I guess.
Definitely.
Um, I upon doing research, it looks like early on in your career you did get to face some pretty big names, especially in the Lucha Libre community.
Yes.
You got to tag with Laredo Kid against Black Taurus and Azteca. What was
Yeah.
that like getting in there with Azteca, who's a legend, Black Taurus, who is now in AEW, and Laredo Kid, who's been everywhere?
Yeah. Dude, it was awesome, man. I always knew about Black Taurus, and I thought he was so awesome. And I'm always like, man, I want to face him one day. But I always told myself one day. I never thought it was gonna be that day. And teaming up with Loretto Kid, he's a legend. I've always known about Loretto Kid even since when I was younger. So like to be able to team up with him was awesome. But to be able in the ring, like to this day, when I see those photos of me with like short hair and Black Taurus, which is Beast Mortis now, I was like, well, this is wild. This is insane to even look that this happened at one point in my life. And this was before even like I don't even think I was a year in yet. So I think that's
No.
pretty good to be able to do that.
Was you able to pick any minds before or after that?
Afterwards, yeah, I was talking to like Loretto Kid and Beast Mortis and just talking about like lucha and wrestling and stuff like that. And it was really cool, man. It was really cool because before that, I have met Beast Mortis before that, but I didn't get to talk to him as much. Same with Loretto Kid, but then it was that day when I was like, I was able to talk to him more.
That's great. That's good stuff. Um, being somebody from the Chicagoland area, one of our big arenas is, of course, Wrigley Field. You got to do a show there. What
Yes.
was that like as, not only a fan of wrestling, but being kind of like a hometown, home area uh, type guy going into that show?
That was really cool, man. To this day, I still flex that all the time. Like when I meet new people, I'm always like, I wrestle for Wrigley. I wrestle in front of Wrigley Field, and like, or usually if I meet someone and I see like a Cubs like poster or something, I'll be like, I wrestled in front of the Cubs before they played, and they're always like, really? I always think it's such a cool thing to talk about. I still have the shirt I wore that day and everything. Yeah, and that's always a cool moment to look at because I think it's crazy to even think about it.
How did that come about? Was it just something that the Cubs wanted to do, or like what did that look like?
It was like a wrestling night or something like WWE night or something for the Cubs, and they hit up something with Galley, and that became that. And then yeah, we got to wrestle in front of Wrigley Field, and yeah, man, it was really cool because like or where we changed was like in the offices or whatever, and it was really cool because like I'm passing for like the trophy they won which I thought was really awesome. I actually don't know that much about baseball, but like I feel like if every time I tell any baseball fans, they're like, "No way, you did that," and I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, I didn't even know like I didn't even know any of this.
That's great. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but I mean, being from Chicago,
Yeah,
it's something like it's like wrestling in the United Center. Like it's
yeah,
check it off the box or in the Allstate Arena. Like it's a big building for where we're at. And it's cool to I mean, it's even in your area, just being able to be like, yeah, I wrestled there. That's a
yeah,
flex.
yeah. I think that's to even say that.
Um, Also early on, you got to get in the ring with all of Lucha House Party.
Mm.
What was that like? All these guys have been on TV. All of them have been in, the WWE. And were you able to have any interactions with those guys?
Yeah, so that was insane because I always tell myself that was so I cried a lot before I went out. It was just nerve wracking because I was talking to Axel because Axel's the one that brought me to Galley, and I told him like, yeah, I remember my first ever show was Big Lucha show at that same venue. I wanted to go set up that day, and a year later when we go back there, I main event against the Lucha House Party. So to me, it was like a circle, a moment of like life circle moment where we just connected back. And I remember I told Axel, like, dude, I can't believe, like, thank you for taking me here, you know? And to be able to main event there, and like, I came out and I was wrestling Kalisto at one point, and I think the moment when we stood off and looked at each other, the crowd was chanting my name louder, even though I was in a ring with someone who's a bigger name than me and was in WWE. Like, my name was getting chanted louder, and that was insane to me to this day. And Kalisto, someone who was trained by Steve Boz back in the day, so to be able to be in a ring with someone who was trained by my trainer who made it everywhere, to be able to step up in the ring with him, that's awesome as well. And this isn't the only time I've wrestled Kalisto. I've done a triple threat with him at CSW, but to be in the ring with all former Lucha House Party, all former WWE stars, and Lucha House Party members was awesome.
Speaking of you facing Kalisto, in CSW, you got to face him in a three-way with and Inestra.
Yeah,
Wasn't it for the Metro Division Championship, I believe?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. What was that match like? And also, like I guess, two-part question. Would you say Inestra is maybe your biggest rival as far as CSW goes?
yeah, definitely. I think that's the biggest rivalry I've had so far. I've had a rivalry with Sabrina Azteca at Galley, but I think the rivalry with Ernesto has been the hardest one. That we ended up in a we went through so many matches, so like I think that's the biggest rivalry I've had to date. Um, yeah, man, facing Kalisto and Ernesto at a triple threat match. I think even a lot of people from Galley came to see that show at CSW, which is different from Galley because it's not a lucha show because they wanted to see like three high flying Mexican cruiserweights just go at it. And that's exactly what they got. And I think it was like everyone went home happy that day, and it was cool to see money thrown in a CSW ring because that's usually like a lucha libre thing, and it was awesome to see that.
Okay. Um, Speaking of Axel,
Mm.
Axel and yourself were in a match with Psycho Clown,
Yes,
another legend as far as lucha libre goes. And what was it like, battling him and being in there with Axel, somebody that you're pretty comfortable with, being from CSW? What was that whole experience like?
that was awesome, man. I think I've always known about Cycle Clown when I was a kid. Because of when I was a kid, I used to send tapes of WWE to a cousin of mine in Mexico, and he would send me AAA stuff and CMLL stuff. So I knew about like La Parca, Psycho Clown, all these people, and like so like I would go to other shows with Galley, and Psycho Clown would be there. My uncle would stay and watch the main event because he'd be like, "Oh, Psycho Clown's on," because that's like a legend. And to be able to share that ring with him, I remember I was so like I even took a photo with him after that. I was like, "Man, can I get a photo with you?" Because it meant a lot to me, man. That's like taking a photo with John Cena. And like, yeah, I remember I even sent the photo to my uncle, and I was like, "Look who I wrestled," and he was like, "Oh my god, I'm so happy for you." So that was really awesome, man. Because I'd love to wrestle Cycle Clown too one on one. I think that'd be insane. But to be in the ring with him is that's awesome.
Um, you know, we've gone through so far a lot of a big name lucha libre talent that you've been able to face. Is there any lucha libre talent that you haven't yet got to face that you like to?
My dream match until that happens, it will always be Bandito. I'm a big, big mark and fan for Bandito, and I would love to wrestle him. That's legit my dream match to this day. If once that happens, I don't know what else dream matches are there to be, but that's it. I love
Just
Bandito.
Bandito. Okay.
And Bernie is
I
this.
was I was expecting a Rey Mysterio, so Bandito came out of left field. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a
Really
good one.
pretty cool, but I feel like that one's a
It,
little like I'm going for like Jeff Hardy would be the other one, but that's like he's also like getting old. So like, but Bandito right now, I was like, since I started, I was like, that's my dream match right there, Bandito.
is that where you get the like slingshot into the power bomb? Is that from Bandito?
No, so I actually got that from Master Dorado 2.0. He did it
Okay.
once, and I don't never saw him do it again. I was like, I'm gonna start doing it, and yeah, everyone thinks I got it from him, but no. There is a German I do though that's similar to the 21 Plex, but I just kind of switched it around. But yeah.
Okay. Has there been any more like inspirations that you've taken on as far as like your character goes?
Bandito's honestly one that's like big. I take a lot of inspiration from him. People like Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, all the cruiserweights. I just look at Kota Ibushi. I really like him. Yeah, man, it just all goes around from like the people that I really look up to.
What about Hardy or Jeff Hardy has stuck out to you the most? Because I mean, as a Jeff Hardy fan myself, there's countless things, but I'm always curious.
So when I first started watching wrestling with John Cena, that I kind of got onto. But the moment I saw Jeff Hardy, everything changed. It was his high flight moves, the way he came out, like he has aura, and like seeing him do all that crazy stuff, and just he looked cool, man. He like stood out. He was an outcast. I don't know why. As a kid seeing that, I don't know, I connected to him, and I thought he was awesome, man. He was just himself. He was different from every other wrestler at that time, and to this day, I think he kind of just built that road for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, from doing the podcast, I'd say like a lot of people from like my generation, I'd assume your generation, all put him in the like category of guys that inspired them. So it's
Yeah,
just crazy to see how our generation has just been so captivated by Jeff Hardy.
yeah, definitely. I did. That dude's a legend, man.
It's I have never got the privilege to meet him. I saw you. I had a couple pictures with him and Matt, so that's I'm
Yeah,
envious because that's one guy I'd love to get a picture with.
yeah, that meant a lot to me, man. Because I met Matt Hardy twice, but I met Jeff once, and it was unreal, dude. Because I was like, holy shit, these are like guys I looked up to as a kid, man. So like to be able to do that was awesome. And actually, Matt Hardy has a vlog where I'm like the cover of it, and it's me and him. It's me like
Okay,
taking a photo with him, and it's in his like vlog when he came to Rockford, and I was able to catch a video, man. And like I'm in the video and everything. And you
that's
can see how it
badass.
was.
um, how did the Jeff Hardy Matt Hardy thing just come about?
So like when every time I come to live events in Rockford, I always go early to go see the show just to see them park so I can take a photo with them. Because there's like
Okay,
security that lets them walk into the building where they park. Because like the BMO Harris Center in Rockford, it's like across the street from the parking lot. So like where they park, they have to walk. And like obviously you can wait outside and you can get a photo with people if they're nice enough. And that's legit what I did. I legit just waited, and the moment I saw them, people were like, "Oh, it's the Hardys." I was like, "No way!" And after that, I left. I didn't even go to the show. I was like, I was BMXing downtown Rockford when that happened. I just knew they were gonna be there, and I was like, "Yo, let's stop real quick." I was with me and my couple of friends, and that's how I met the Hardy Boys. I didn't even watch the show. I just ran to meet them.
that's badass. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I've met a couple of guys like that, but just I've never heard of somebody going up and just getting a photo and then just like, okay, I've had my moment. It's
yeah.
badass.
You know, I want, dude. If I could be the Hardy Boys, that's all I can think of.
um, I noticed you were wearing an NWA shirt,
Hmm.
which leads me into my next question. You've been able to work with the NWA, especially in their Chicago territory.
Yeah.
What's it like to be able to be given that kind of platform, and where do you see that going in the future?
Uh, I was first given the platform when they first came to the NWA Chicago territory. I was on there and I've been ever since. I wasn't in the last one, but oh yeah, I did that, and wrestling on their stuff kind of opened the eyes for me, and I was able to do a taping for them for the Back to the Territories in Louisville, and I was able to wrestle for the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship belt, which is pretty cool to say that I wrestled for it. I had a title match for the NWA belt. Obviously, we didn't get the win, but like to be able to be on TV, not anymore because they don't have a TV thing. But like to be able to say that's really cool, especially because that was when I was a year and a couple of months in.
Yeah.
So that's still awesome. And yeah, man, I've done stuff with the NWA, and hopefully we keep doing more. So there's a new year starting, and hopefully bigger doors open for me. So yeah.
For them, you got to tag with Trevor Murdoch, former, tag team champion in the WWE, former NWA champion. Going in, did he give you any advice? And what was it like being on that platform with somebody who's accomplished those things in wrestling so far?
He was just like, man, do what you want, kid. Do what you do, kid. And after that, yeah, man, it was really cool though because like after the match, he legit told me like stand in the ring, man, get your standing ovation, and it was awesome, man. I remember I told him like, dude, I used to watch you wrestle the Hardy Boys when I was a kid, and like to be able to team up with someone I saw on TV. I used to have a Backlash DVD when it was him and his partner versus the Hardy Boys for the tag belts, and that's the person that came to my mind. I was like, no way, I'm teaming up with this dude.
That's badass.
Yeah, really cool.
Another legend you've got to get in the ring with is Homicide, also for the NWA.
Yes.
Um, Homicide is one of the baddest men on the planet, and one of the kindest dudes I've ever like briefly talked to. What was it like getting in there with former LAX member Homicide?
That was a cool moment, man. I was supposed to be in some other match. Things changed, and they told me, "Yeah, you're gonna face Homicide," and I was like, "No way!" And I went out there, and it didn't really hit me until I heard his theme song hit. Because when I was a kid, I used to love LAX, and I used to think Homicide was cool as shit. And I used to be a little kid. I used to put bandanas on and do the LAX thing. And I remember when that music hit and he came out, I was like, no way, I'm facing Homicide. And afterwards, like people were like, dude, you don't know the legend that you just wrestled. Like you wrestled one of the legends. And it was an awesome, easy match. And to be able to say I wrestled someone like Homicide, especially because he's older now, I'm very thankful that I got to wrestle him.
Um, you've also had the privilege to wrestle. Some might call him, a Chicago legend. Others might just call him a Chicago standout. But you've been in the ring with Gringo Loco, and
Mm.
then it was a triple threat with Shane Hollister.
Yes.
What was that match like? And somebody like Gringo, I know he is really he's been around this area. He's really helped mold this area. Was you able to get any solid advice from Gringo?
Yeah, he just told me that. He's like, my stuff was solid, man, and to keep. He actually we text each other like not all the time, but he was hitting me up a couple of times, and he was just telling me like, man, your clips are going like your clips are insane, man. Like you should keep going out there more and getting your name out there. And I've actually I've wrestled at that 6 man. I wrestled him in that triple threat, and then I did a 6 man tag with him and Axel against other people. And then now at Dreamwave, I'm making my Dreamwave debut, and I'm wrestling him, Myron Reed, and Marcus Mathers, a WWID talent. And yeah, man, Gringo. Actually, what's funny though too about Gringo Loco? My first ever wrestling show as a kid that I ever saw live was a galley show in Belvedere at the fairgrounds, and there was a guy throwing tortillas, and that ended up being Gringo Loco later on. I just never knew it, and it was cool to be like before we went wrestled. I told him like, dude, I legit saw you as a little kid once, and he was like, oh, that's awesome, man. I was like, yeah, dude.
It's crazy you bring that up because like earlier today, like I don't know if I told you this on or off camera, but I mentioned how I saw you at a galley show
Mm.
out on a farm. I was actually for my little brother's birthday, and I was telling him I was getting to talk to you. And he at first he was like, "Who?" And I was like, "Remember the guy that beat the frat boy at the?" And he was like, "Really? You're talking to him?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he pulls out autographs and stuff. So like, I can let you know you're also giving people those moments.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, dude. Sometimes I always tell myself like I used to always want to be like I used to like have posters of like wrestlers, and I'm always like I always like I wish I hope it turns around where like someone's looking up to me or going like, oh, dude, that Quintero kid, and like to hear that, man, that really means a lot, man. Seriously.
Of course, and I know that's why you guys do this, why you put your bodies on the line. And you're definitely, I could tell you from what I've seen, you have a way to get the crowd around you that's kind of, it's surreal, especially in an arena. Like you come out and the reaction is insane. Is like as a competitor, do you get used to that, or is it something that every time is it it's not the same?
Uh, lately I feel like everywhere I go, I do get it, but like it feels cool, man. I think it's more cooler when my music hits, or even before my music hits, and I'm not even out there, and I hear people going Quintero. That's so awesome to me because I'm like, damn, like they're already chanting for me. I'm not even out there yet. And when I get out there ring, people start cheering my name, and they're not even cheering the opponents' names. That's so awesome to me, man. Because I'm like, yeah, yeah, these people know who I am.
Um, some guys I've been able to talk to from like the CSW roster. Two of them are Jack Fowler, Eddie Grayson, two young guys in this sport, and they've both mentioned you as somebody that maybe they consider. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but somewhere along the lines of a big brother.
Yeah, definitely. They're like little brothers to me. Those are two kids I travel with a lot. I take them with me as much as I can. So like, yeah, those are like my little brothers to me.
How does that feel to, for one, you're still pretty young into your wrestling career, but to have people that look at you that way, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel really good because I feel like wrestling's a brotherhood, man. We're all family members, but I feel like when you get a group of, because at the end of the day, they're my friends as well, but like we're so close with each other and we go everywhere together. Where it's kind of like, yeah, these are like they're like family to me, man. Like they can always rely on me to give them advice and help them out on stuff, and it's the same backwards.
Definitely. Um, I guess a shout out to them too. Uh,
Yeah, shout out to Chad and Eddie. I think they're a team. They're very talented kids, and they're a team that's on the come up in Chicago lately. And I feel like they're in the talks of everyone, and everyone wants to face them. And I know one day they'll be out there and everywhere. I can see them going everywhere as well.
I could tell you from the last CSW show, um, they had the street fight, and it was one of the hottest matches of the night. Everybody just really wanted to see um, Jack and Eddie beat Black Sheep and Chris Miller. It's
Yeah.
probably because nobody likes Chris Miller, but but they tore the house down. What was it like trying to follow that?
Uh, I was kind of like I already kind of knew what they were gonna do because like they had the street fight, and then we're gonna use the weapons that we are gonna use. So I feel like it was just a different vibe of a match. But I think them being way before us was a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, and then I do want to talk about your match. Well, I'll get into that later.
Mhm.
Um, there's a couple more things I want to cover first.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
One is, an indie talent that has been everywhere and done everything, who recently has kind of done a complete 180 on his character work, his Warhorse.
Yes.
Um, and he's somebody that's been in CSW for quite some time. What was it like being able to battle him in what seemed to be maybe the start or the beginning of that shift of his character?
It was really cool, man. I was when I first ever saw who Warhorse was, I saw him as a good guy and as his old character, and I thought it was the most coolest character ever. I
Yeah.
marked for it, and then he turned into like this bad guy, and even seeing his bad guy I was like, oh, this is awesome too. So I got to wrestle him at CSW, and I also raced like legit last week. No, not last week. Man, maybe 2 weeks ago or last week, I wrestled him at second again in a really, really good match that was better than the first one at CSW. So like Warhorse is an awesome guy, and yeah, man, he's awesome. I think his character work is insane, and he's a badass theme song too.
I always caught like his original character captivated me because like I was a big Macho Man guy,
Yeah,
and like it reminded me of the Snappins and Slim Jim thing, which I think was the point. I'd have to get him on here to talk about it, but like when I saw him in person for the first time was at the last CSW show when he fought Conan for the belt.
oh, okay, yeah, Steel Cage, yeah.
So like seeing him in person, he's a completely different guy. So it threw me completely off because I was like, yeah, my dad wasn't really sure who he was. He kind of keeps his ear on the indie scene, but not really. So I was like, Dad, and I was showing him clips, and then he comes out and he's like, that's not him. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's him, but it's not him. It was just crazy. But is like, think that maybe that drastic of a character change um could it hinder a career?
I think wrestling is a thing where you just can't be afraid to try things. You can't be afraid to fail. That was one thing that was told by me by Jason Hades, which is like one of my trainers, and I think that is very true. You can never be afraid of trying new things in wrestling.
Definitely. And with him, it's definitely succeeded. Like he's taken
Yeah,
it and ran with it.
I also think he's just a very talented guy and knows what he's doing with his character. Like him doing the embrace nihilism stuff, I think it's really cool. And he went from being like a really great good guy to a really great bad guy. And he just knows what he's doing.
Definitely. Has it ever been something that's crossed your mind, maybe to go to the dark side?
Uh yeah, but I think not anytime soon. I think Quintero's a great good guy, and I think I want to keep doing that for a while.
You're definitely like, especially if, for instance, just your rivalry with Anistra, it you guys clash so well because he's like the perfect bad guy and you're the perfect good guy for him. It's almost like Batman and the Joker, kind of, because you just complement each other so well because you're so similar but so opposite at the same time. It's just it's very captivating.
Yeah.
Um, Something you have been able to accomplish. Forgive me if I say the name of the title wrong, but uh, the Galley Goal
Gladiator belt, you can just say, yeah.
Gladiator belt. Yeah, you was able to accomplish uh, grabbing that gold. What was that like? And you know, does it shift how you got to present yourself when it goes to being behind the curtain? Do you got to become locker room leader?
No, not really, but getting that belt meant a lot to me because that was my first ever singles belt, and when I won that belt, like I cried real tears because that just meant a lot to me. I got my start in Galley, and to be able to win a belt at Galley was a lot, meant a lot to me. And to this day, like that belt, man, that belt's right over here, but like it was cool to have that belt, that moment of like, yeah, I did it. And even like the fans are so into it when I won. Hearing that pop when I won was awesome. And yeah, man, to be at Galley at my home promotion as a champion is really awesome.
Are you still currently the Gladiator champion?
Yep, to this day.
How long have you held the belt for now? With do you think?
I don't know, to be honest. It's my longest belt. I have four belts at the moment. Like,
Okay,
yeah, right now I don't know. That's my longest belt. It goes that CSW, then MCW belt, and then Squirt Circle belt. So yeah,
okay. So you got some gold.
yeah, right now I do.
Would you consider yourself a belt collector?
I think at the moment when I was winning those belts, yes, because I won them pretty quick. Right now I haven't been winning anything. I'm just chilling. Like other
Okay,
than
you're just holding them, keeping them.
holding them right now, but like who to say I have four belts?
That's especially like you said. There's guys that have been in this business for years, without ever holding gold yet. So to have four, and you're 2 years in, and you you're quite the expert as far as your craft. So it speaks volumes to the level you've been able to grow since your beginning.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
Um, do you think, you mentioned having a sports background and a BMX background. Do you think that's helped you maybe um, learn so quickly in this business?
Actually, Axel Rico once said that he was like he believes that's what helped me a lot. Every sport I've done sports my whole life, so like not to be some cocky, but like every sport I ever did, I was just really good at it. The first sport I ever did was soccer, and I was horrible at it. But then I got really good because I used to get picked on because they're like, "Oh, you suck." But then I got really good at it, and like ever since then, like every sport I do, I was just really, really good. But I also was been one that like when I do a sport, I put my all into it. I never like to like half-ass my stuff. And like to that day, I still have this mentality of like, if you're gonna do something, you do with your best. Well, there's no point if you're gonna not even try your best, then don't do it at all. You're wasting your time. If you're gonna do something, do it your fullest because you never know what you can lead to with that.
Definitely. Um, Another thing you've been able to accomplish in this career of yours is you've been on TNA.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what was your experience like working with TNA wrestling?
Yeah, I did a TNA Explosion. It was something with Galley because they were helping promote it, and they kind of just gave some Galley guys an opportunity, and they chose me and my partner Torero and El Torero, and yeah, we got to wrestle uh, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams, which is Sinner and Saint, part of TNA, and yeah, man, we got to face them. We were the first match of the night, and we were at TNA Explosion, and that was a cool thing to do because like wrestling coming out of that tunnel where I used to watch on TV as a kid. I used to see Jeff Hardy, LAX, and all these people like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe come out of that tunnel, and to be able to come out of that tunnel and seeing also like I don't know how to say the word, the triathlon or whatever. The screen had my name Quintero, and like that meant a lot to me because I was like, man, I used to be a kid and I used to see like Jeff Hardy have his name on the screen, and now I have that. Now I'm on a stage. Now I'm on a ring and there's cameras following me. That was an awesome feeling to come out that tunnel and do my pose. Like it was a different feeling, and I hope to be there again, man. That was an awesome feeling.
Um, was that before Jeff Hardy went back to the TNA?
He debuted the night before that.
Okay, was he there for that at all, or
No, they weren't there.
no?
I was hoping there. I was hoping the same thing, but nah, they weren't there.
Was there anybody else backstage that you saw growing up, or you got to like that you got to pick a mind a little bit at all?
There was one that it was Santino Morella, and I remember how I was like, "Oh no way, it's Santino Morella," because I used to see him as a kid. But he was there. Speedball was there, and I met him before, and he remembered who I was. So we just started talking, and he took me down to the ring, me and my partner, and it was really awesome to do that. Yeah, that's the one guy I was talking to the whole night, and then like Rhino was there and Tommy Dreamer, and they knew about me because of my trainer Boz, and it was really cool to them go like, "Yeah, you're Boz's kid, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Yeah, he told me you're gonna be here," and it was really cool.
Um, speaking of Boz, is working with him. Does he give you shout outs like that often? Like if you go off somewhere, he knows somebody. Is he always uh, advocating for you guys or giving you guys a shout out, trying to help get guys noticed?
Yeah, Boz always shouts out to his kids because we're his kids at the end of the day. But one thing, Boz actually gave me the name the Diamond in the Rough. That became from him. When I first started training, he'd be like, "Man, this kid's catching on, man. He's like Diamond in the Rough." That's legit where that came from. But Boz is always putting in a good word for me and always giving me a shout out. So like, yeah, shout out to Steve Boz as well.
Definitely. Um, Speaking of Boz, we're going to go back to CSW. Um, After countless times of trying, you finally took the Metro Championship off of Inestra.
Mhm.
What was that like, and how do you think that changed the momentum of your guys' rivalry?
I think beating him was kind of a really cool feeling because I won a belt at my home promotion and the promotion where it's wild because that same show where I won the belt a year ago was the day I debuted on CSW. So like a year later, I won the belt, and that was really cool to me because I wasn't even in. That was like a year and a couple of months in, and I was already pet champion in my home promotion, and that was a cool feeling because like when I walked the bag, everyone was clapping for me. Like I was trained at CSW and I won. Now I'm a champion there, so that was really cool.
You've been able to defend the championship quite a few times. One time though was against Axel Rico and uh, Er Eriz.
Yeah,
I don't want to say his name wrong, but which was quite the fun match, triple threat. Axel did his Eddie Guerrero tribute. What was that match like? And once again, you're fighting, Axel, who you're comfortable with, and then Erez is quite the name also in Lucha Libre. So what was that experience like?
that was an awesome match. It was really really fun match. Very lucha. Crowd got to see a bunch of cool stuff done. I got to hit a lot of cool stuff done, and I retained my belt. It was my first defense, and that was cool. And I've met hours before at Galley. I've always talked to him. He's a very, very cool guy. But that was the first time I got to be in the ring with him, and that was really awesome.
Um, was there any sort of pride being able to walk out of a match like that was still holding the championship?
Yeah, it was definitely cool, and people were applauding for that match afterwards. And I think that people got what they wanted. I think that was a cool match, and it was exactly what you expect from those three names in one ring.
Okay. Um, the last couple times you've defended have both been against Anestra, and one was a 2 out of 3 falls match,
Hmm.
which the finish was quite interesting. With the cutter spot, you guys kind of collide in some might consider a very gnarly landing,
Yes.
and it was very kind of confusing ending, but we got the point. It led to the TLC match. What was the 2 out of 3 falls match, and how did you like feel about the ending after it happened?
I think we were both in our heads and we are just very angry at each other. And we were kind of like, you know what, we're going to end it all here. And then we just collided and then we were ended. And then I think that was exactly what like happens when people just hate, dislike each other. And it led to this TLC match where we also did the same thing. We just kind of tried just killing each other basically.
Um, in that match, there was in the TLC, there was quite a few, crazy bumps. The Canadian Destroyer off the apron, which I'm not gonna lie, seeing that as a fan, I definitely thought somebody was hurt. Very glad nobody was injured by that. And then the power bomb, the sunset flip, which was amazing, through the ladder. But at the end of that, the belt falls.
Yes.
What what goes through your mind as a competitor whenever something like that happens? Because it's definitely got to change the whole way you planned or talked about having this match.
Yeah. We just kind of stood there like, oh, what now? Because the ref told us like, hey, that belt fell. But then right away they announced it was a singles match, and we're just like, oh, game on now. Yeah, that was basically it. We're just like, keep going.
Okay. Um, and then right after that, you do the swanton off the top of a ladder through an extra with the table. Um, was that a callback to Jeff Hardy at all?
Yeah, that was legit. Just me being a Jeff Hardy fan as a kid. I'll forever say that was the coolest feeling ever. Is being on top of that ladder, standing up completely. That was the coolest feeling ever, and it was just a throwback to Jeff Hardy because that was my biggest idol as a kid, man.
Okay. And then afterwards, and Esther does receive an injury. What's the interaction like between you guys, if any, after a situation like that?
We were both just hoping for each other to be safe. That was the biggest important thing. Obviously, things went wrong and he was knocked out of unconscious. And right now he's doing fine though. He's just kind of just back to normal. Basically, he's just healing on his shoulder because obviously a 200-pound man landing on him from that high is gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt
Yes.
something. He hurt his shoulder a little bit. Nothing serious. He just has to do physical therapy, so he's fine. To be able to speak to him, and I think he told me one thing. He was like, "Hey man, at the end of the day, we're both safe. We could have both been very injured, so like we're both safe. And that's all that matters."
Are you looking forward to maybe getting in there and doing it again to get a definitive, finish?
Yeah, I feel like I'd expect that to happen, but I don't know what will happen. CSW starts up again in January, and I think CSW is very hot at the moment, and you never know what's going to happen. So I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that whatever it is, it's going to be something great.
Definitely. Before we carry on, I do want to say the GoFundMe for Inestra, I will put in the description. So anybody watching this, if they want to support him, I'll throw it in there just to help him out, especially
Yeah,
if there's a recovery.
most
Um,
definitely.
um, Getting into some fun questions before I get you off here. One thing I always like to ask because it's fun: do you prefer working tag team or in a singles action?
I prefer singles just because I get to be more me.
Okay. Does it help you kind of like guide that journey through like your high flying style, being able to hit the spots that you want to definitely hone in on in the match?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. That's kind of why I
Okay.
like just get to be me more. When you're with a tag partner, you got to rely on your tag partner. When you're on yourself, you rely on you only.
How many tag teams have you like official tag teams have you been in?
At Galley, I was just with Torero. At JWA, which was my first belt. I just don't talk about it as much. I was a JWA tag team champion with Poncho. Uh, we were part of the Top Latinos, which is just a faction. I was a bad guy. I don't really talk about that one as much, but like Yeah, other than that, me and Lizard Man Nathan Nile have been teaming up a lot. Not a lot, but a couple of times. And we recently just had a really good match last night with the Bang Bros, August and Davey Matthews, and Jag and Eddie. So that was a really cool match too. We got a lot of money thrown in at the ring, and everyone was pretty pleased with that match. So yeah, right now it's just Nathan, Lizard Man, Nathan Nile has been teaming up with me lately.
Okay. You mentioned Jack and Eddie again. Um, what's it like being able to get in the ring with somebody or those guys that you consider maybe little brothers? Is it fun getting in there and throwing down with them?
Oh, it's always fun. That's an easy. I know everything they do, and they know everything I do, so it's very easy and very fun. I've actually wrestled Eddie once in a one-on-one match at HAW, which is Under Armour Wrestling. It was a last-minute thing, and that was a really great match. And Eddie always says how that was like that's his best singles match to this day because he doesn't have any singles match because he's a tag team. Jack is the only one I have not wrestled yet a singles match, but one day that'll happen. One day I think that'll be an awesome match as well. But those are kids that I can wrestle any day with a with a blindfold on. Yeah, I know everything they do, and they know everything I do. So like that'd be one day we'll have a triple threat match that everyone will talk about. Don't know when, but one day it will happen.
Definitely. Um, as far as Quintero goes, what would you say like your goals for 2025 are?
Um, my first year wrestling, it was just me trying to get out there more as much as I could, and I was able to get everywhere. This year, it was me making debuts in big promotions where I can be seen and making debuts for like TV companies like NWA and TNA. And this year, I've already had one goal. I just want to get on a bigger stage like AEW or WWE or get signed or get a contract because that's always the ultimate goal. But I believe that could happen next year.
Okay, I like it. Um, something like recently in news that's happened, especially with like the WWE and the WWID system. Is
Mm.
that something that you think helps somebody like yourself on the independent circuit get seen quicker?
Yeah, I think so. I think it just helps out everybody. I think it's cool to be. I think it's cool for WWE to be interested in the indies, not as much as like they want the college athletes, but for them to be wanting the independent scene is really awesome.
Um, is it something that you pay a lot of like attention to, or is it something that if it happens kind of thing?
When it was first getting announced, I was like, oh no way, he got announced. Now it's more kind of like, oh that's cool. But like right now, I feel like my goal is just to be on there, just to be on WWE or AEW or in a stage where I'm like, I can get bigger up there and be doing what I want to do is wrestling on TV.
Have you been able to do any like extra work or anything for like a company like that?
Yes, I have done extra work once for WWE when they came to the All-State Arena for SmackDown when Jacob Fatu debuted.
Oh, I was there actually.
Yeah, that
I
was bad.
was,
It was really cool.
that's badass. Did you get to do anything on screen or was you just backstage?
I actually was on screen, but you have to look closely. I was next to Cody Rhodes when he's walking to go talk to Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, but you see me as a security guard next to the white six sign, which is pretty cool. But
That's
like
badass.
some people saw me and they tagged me on Facebook. They're like, "Is that Quintero?" Like, yeah, it's like very hard to look at.
Nah, that was one of actually my first live shows in a couple years was that. And the Fatu thing was really cool, especially in Chicago.
Yeah, I actually got to see him before he went out. And I was like, "Yo, I met you at CSW because my first ever CSW show was when he wrestled Axel Rico.
Oh, did you get to talk to him anymore, or was it just a brief encounter?
It was just a brief, "What's up, man?" and that was it. And then like, yeah,
Did you get to talk to anybody else backstage at all at WWE?
no, not really. We said hi to William Regal. That was it.
Okay. Um, I've talked to a couple other guys that's done extra work. Is the extra work something that you reach out for, or is it something maybe they contact the CSW and ask for extras?
I got reached out by someone at AAW, and then that's kind of how they reached out to me. But yeah, they got reached out.
Okay. Um, couple more questions before I get going, or I we get you going. Um, there's always a dispute on whether like who the four Mount Rushmore guys is.
Hmm.
Do you have your personal Mount Rushmore, and why would you pick them guys?
For me, it'd be a me thing. It's not more of like the best in the world. It's more of just like, oh, these are my favorites. I'd
Yeah,
always say, how many is it? Like four, right?
four. Yep,
I'd say Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, John Cena, and who was somebody else I liked as a kid? I'd either say, I'd say Randy Orton because those are like people that I like. To me, that comes to mind. Like Jeff Hardy was a high flyer kid I liked as a kid. He was cool. He was creative in his own way. He was the underdog. Same with Rey Mysterio. He was a short dude, and I kind of felt like related to that. And he was Hispanic, so I related to that as well. John Cena is like the GOAT. He was the best, and Randy Orton was like the best bad guy. And like anytime I remember Randy Orton and John Cena, I remember their feud when I was a little kid. Like he punted his dad's head, so like that was like that always comes to mind.
definitely. I being a kid from the same generation, I would have picked similar guys. Definitely, not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Maybe not all the same, but I probably two or three the same.
yeah. I was kind of
uh,
struggling with the last one because I was like, who would I put in that position? But I was like Randy Orton because I feel like Randy Orton's him, man. He's him. He's that guy that I think anyone who doesn't even know wrestling knows who Randy Orton is.
yeah, definitely. Especially with the RKO. Like,
Yeah, just like when that meme was like going hard, like
yeah,
everyone knows who Randy Orton is.
everybody does. Everybody's tried to hit an RKO
Yeah,
out
definitely.
of nowhere.
Yeah.
Before I get you going, is there any advice that you'd like to give? Maybe somebody like an Eddie or a Jack who are just getting started, or somebody who hasn't started yet.
I'd say chase your dreams, man. Anything is possible in this life. You just gotta believe in yourself. You gotta believe in yourself before anyone else believes in it. Uh, because anything is possible in this life, man. As long as you put your mind to it, focus on what you want, what you need to do to get there, and believe in yourself. How could you believe someone's gonna? How can somebody else believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? And that's what I mean by you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta believe that you're that man before you even become that man. You gotta believe you're the GOAT before you even become the GOAT. You gotta believe anything is possible in this world. And I'll manifest everything you can. Anything's possible in this world, though, man.
Like it. I like that you brought up manifest because that's something that I find is very important. Like, some of my dad's always taught me his words are powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
So anything you say can and more than likely will become a reality. So
Man.
see it, believe it, speak it, believe it, whatever you want to say. I couldn't agree with your words more. But Quintero, I will leave it at I'll leave the door open if you ever want to come on here for part two. You have so many great things to talk about. I'd love to have you on here again. So I'm
Dude,
gonna leave the door open.
yeah. You let me know when, man. I'm always available. I really like doing interviews. I think it's fun. And yeah, man, we can even keep going if you want to, man. This is fun to me, dude.
Definitely. You know, we'll keep going. Screw it.
Yeah.
um, with growing up, you mentioned being, watching in the, Ruthless Aggression era when John Cena started. What was like your first memory as far as like a match goes, if you can remember?
Oh, dude, there was one match. If someone were to ask me, what's one match that you always remember? I was a big Jeff Hardy fan, but the only other guy I knew was John Cena, and they once faced at a main event for Raw, the Monday Night Raw. And I remember my cousin, everyone else in my family in that house that I lived in, because it was me and a bunch of my cousins, they all like John Cena, and I like Jeff Hardy. And I was like, Jeff Hardy's going to beat John Cena because he's better, and he lost. And I remember that. And I was so mad about that. That match always comes to mind because that was that match that actually made me be very, very interested in wrestling.
That match was on the Jeff Hardy DVD, and it
Mm.
was like one of my favorite matches off the whole DVD.
The My Life
That one,
video DVD thing.
yep. And then that one, and then he did the false count anywhere with Umaga,
Yes, when he did this one.
where he slides down the rail and he swoops on. That's also like one of my favorite Jeff Hardy matches for no reason. It's not nothing like crazy or special, but it's just something about Hardy and the things he utilizes his environment in a way that's just captivating. I don't know what it was, but that match got me.
Definitely. I know exactly what you're talking about because I used to have that DVD as well. And I used to always rewatch that match, especially. I always thought it was cool when he did that swan time at the end and sliding down the thing. It's funny because I have a video of me recreating that sliding down the thing with me and my friends just messing around.
Um, Another like DVD that he was on all the time was the ladder match DVDs, which I had both the sets. They did two of like I don't know if you remember, they had like the three disc like sets back in the day.
Yeah.
But like Hardy was on all of those, and like those are I remember it was right after the VHS stopped. Like for those who don't know what a VHS tape is, but like right after they stopped making the VHS tapes. So like I had my dad for Christmas buy me the big like DVD VHS set player, and that the first one had like all the Hardy's TLC matches on it, and that disc never left the set at all. He's
Yeah.
like, "Where's the disc?" I'm like, "You know where it is. It's in the DVD player."
Yeah.
Um, I've noticed you have been fiddling with the toy ladder.
Oh,
I'm a huge action figure guy, so I
oh,
gotta ask:
collection.
Is are you an action figure guy?
Yeah, I collect them. I know Jack and Daddy used to have like fig collections and they have way more figures than me, but yeah, I legit have like a big ladder over here, a little one. I have a table, a ring next to me. So like, yeah, I'm still a big fig collection to this day.
It's one of the honestly, it's probably the foundation of my channel. So all grows up on YouTube, but like foundation of it is actually a figure fed. Um, it's so like collecting for you, is it just something you do as a hobby, or is it something you've done for a long time?
I've just done it as a kid, man. I still play with my figures to this day, man. I've always wanted to do a fig, like a fed, like I know Jack used to do it. So like I always want to do it that way where they film it and post it on YouTube. I just never got to do it when I was a kid. And to this day I thought about doing it, but I'm like, I feel like I just don't have time for it. And but I still play with
It's
my figures.
tough. I mean, I can tell you, even doing interviews, like I do, I probably record six, seven, eight of these a week. It's tough trying to
To this,
maintain living, filming, and interviews. Like it's just if you don't have time, don't try to crunch it in there because it takes so much time.
yeah, definitely.
Um, what would you say your favorite figure is?
Right now, uh, dude, that's a hard question. I don't know, man. I feel like I have this cool Rey Mysterio figure that I got that I just like it because I think the details to it are really cool. And I was always just as I just remembered, I bought the 2 pack of the Hardy Boys when they returned at WrestleMania. That came with the big letter and the small one with the raw belts. That was cool to me because I always had their Jax figures and I always wanted to get their new figures. Uh, but with the newer Jeff Hardys. So the moment that got posted on Ringside Collectibles, I remember I bought it right away, and to this day I have them. To this day,
I'd say for me, it's kind of a recent one. But back in the day, when Mattel first started, they did the CM Punk for Money in the Bank,
mm.
and I was never able to get that figure. But recently, Ringside dropped the Ultimate Edition one, and that's probably like my favorite figure. I can't ever put it down. Like I'm always fiddling with it. My fiance is like, "Can you put the damn toy down?"
Yeah, dude,
uh,
I've been wanting a Dragon Lee figure lately. I'm just waiting for it to come out in stores. I don't really
yeah,
own figures as much. It's more of like if I see it, I'm like, oh, I'll buy it. But Dragon Lee, I really want a Dragon Lee just because I'm a big fan of the Luchas, and Dragon Lee's awesome.
Dragon Lee is one that I'm really glad they brought it out so quick because usually it takes them forever.
Yeah,
But I haven't got the Dragon Lee figure yet, but it's definitely one that I'm excited to get. Just like I remember even watching him before like AEW and
yeah,
thinking like, man, this would be cool to have a Dragon Lee. So like the second I saw like prototype images and stuff, I was like, I can't wait to get that.
yeah. Him and like Jacob, the Jacob Fatu figure, I really want as well. I saw the
Definitely.
Yeah, they released the what's it called, the prototype for that, where I was like, oh hell yeah, that's something that was fast too. Same with like I know they have a Will Ospreay figure now too. That's another one I'd get. If Bandito gets a figure, I'll get that. But like yeah,
Like another line I kind of pay attention to is the Legends of Lucha Libre. I've been able to get a couple figures from them. Like they did a Ray Phoenix, which is super badass. But they made a Black Taurus, which
yeah, is that the one that released the Taurus figure then?
yeah, I that's the one that's evaded me because I like out of that collection I got their Vampiro, their Ultimate Dragon, but I missed the Taurus, and I was like,
Really?
come on.
I had an opportunity to buy that figure and then I just never not get it. But now I'm like, I should have goddamn got it. I just didn't get
It was right before he got signed too, so I was like,
it.
damn. And then another one that was in like that series was Taya Valkyrie, um, and I didn't get that one either, and I wish I would have because now she's everywhere. She's been on TNA and then
Yeah.
she's been on AEW. So like that would be a cool one, I guess. Um, as you know, a collector, do you ever hope to maybe get an action figure?
Oh, that'd be a dream come true, man. I think it'd be cool, and also for like my family to see that, they'd probably. My mom would be like, "No way," because she used to see me. She used to buy me figures, so I think for her to one day able to see her son as a figure would be awesome. But for me, it'd be more of a Mark thing for me because I'd be like, "Hell yeah, I got my own figure!" Like it'd be awesome to see that.
Have you ever tried to make your own figure of you?
I actually have a custom figure of me that Jack made me when I first met Jack, so I still have
Badass.
it to this day.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's something else I really enjoy doing. I don't, it takes so much time, so it's not something I get to do a lot,
yeah.
but making figures
I
is always a
totally does.
blast. What was that?
Jack does a lot of customizing with figures. I don't know how the hell he does that. That just seems hard and stressful.
It takes so much time and energy, and I don't know, man. Maybe with normal life, it's just difficult. But
Dude,
shout
yeah,
out to him for being able to have the time to do that shit because it's rough.
yeah. I tried it once by myself and then I gave up. So like, I don't know how people do it.
it it's one of those, honestly, it takes a lot of practice, a lot of you got to have parts to mess up because you're going
Yeah,
to mess them up. Something about heating up plastic, it never wants to work the way you want it to work. It's just the way it is, so like it's all practice, and I honestly don't have the money to just sit here and boil figures until something works.
yeah.
um Something else, I guess, you know, being of a Latino heritage,
Hmm.
who would you say like are your biggest inspirations from that side of wrestling?
Rey Mysterio was always the one. That was the one that I kind of noticed right away off the bat. When
Okay.
I first found out about wrestling, Eddie Guerrero already have passed away. I found out about Eddie Guerrero later on because of a SmackDown best of thing DVD I bought. They had like
Hmm.
four CDs, I think, in it. And that's how I found out about Eddie Guerrero. Same with like Kurt Angle. I didn't know about Kurt Angle. I knew a Perk Angle because I watched TNA. I knew that Kurt Angle. I never knew he was part of WWE at one point. I only knew about him in TNA. But like back to yeah, Rey Mysterio has always been one. Um, I'm a big fan of Bandito. The Lucha Bros are awesome. I'm a big fan of Lucha, and that's kind of why I do a lot of Lucha stuff still because I think a lot of Lucha is cool, and I think I can do it. So I mean, might as well do it.
Definitely. Is there hopes to travel down and maybe go to a CMLL or a AAA?
Oh, that would be awesome, man. I think it'd be cool to wrestle for AAA or CMLL because, or I one day go to my goals. I want to wrestle in Mexico, and I feel like it's very, very possible. But I one day want to wrestle in where my mom was born in Mexico, which is Guanajuato. And I think it'd be a dream come true to wrestle in a place where my mom came from.
Have you ever been able to leave the US
Yeah.
to
Uh,
wrestle?
no, I haven't wrestled outside of the United States yet, but I used to travel a lot to Mexico all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to actually
Um,
all the time, and then when it was when I moved out of my parents' house, I was like, I don't want to buy a ticket anymore, and then I just stopped going.
what's like the biggest difference in cultures between, the United States and Mexico?
It's just different. It's very different. I don't even know how to explain it. I feel like I think I don't know. Like I think the vibe is just different, man. I don't even know how to explain it. Like if you went through, you'd be like, oh shit, I see it. But like, yeah, man. But I will say when I used to go to Mexico a lot for vacation, I really enjoyed it. It was beautiful, and I felt comfortable, and it's just like something part of my culture where I'm kind of like, oh, this is cool to see this side too, because I was I was in America my whole life, so like to me it's different. Like I wasn't raised the way that people that were raised down there because I was raised over here.
Okay. You mentioned having family down there. Would you go down there to visit them?
Yeah, I used to go there all the time. I used to bring my bike with me, and I would just BMX down there because it was warm over there while it was cold over here and snowy. I'd be still riding outside.
Was it ever a clash of cultures? You know, being you raised here, them raised there. Was there ever any? I don't want to say issues, but like, was there any conflict? Maybe.
No, not really. It was kind of just
No.
normal. You can always tell though in Mexico, the guys that weren't from Mexico, you can always tell the Mexicans that aren't from Mexico. Uh, just the way they dress, the way they speak, because they speak differently over there. It's still Spanish, but it's just different.
Okay. Has um being bilingual helped you at all, especially like in the wrestling world?
Oh, it does help a lot, especially because I can call a match in Spanish, and like other people can't, and I can do that. I can. It's always, yo, Ralph, can you help me speak this? I gotta talk to this guy. I'm gonna wrestle this dude. I don't know Spanish, and it's easy for me. So I mean, that's pretty cool. And I can also talk to fans in Spanish, and I can get a crowd that only like a lucha crowd's usually like of Hispanic or Latin community. So and I can talk to them in Spanish, and like not everybody else can.
Have is there any like hopes of being able to go like maybe to Europe and try their style or maybe a Japan, something like that?
Oh, Japan's one of my goals. But one of my goals is just to wrestle all over the world. But Japan is one of that's legit my bucket list of just me, of like Raphael's life. I just want to go to Japan somehow one day, Tokyo, Japan.
Is it like, do you want to be on like a New Japan show? Is there anybody like there that speaks to you that, hey, I want to wrestle that guy?
Well, I'd always say like Kenny Omega or something, or like Will Ospreay, but like I would just like to wrestle in Japan. I think that'd be cool as hell to be able to be like, yeah, wrestle in a different country, and it was Japan, and to see like their culture and to experience that. I think it's something that's very beautiful, and I'd love to wrestle there, and I'd love to witness that one day, even if I just went to just vacation. That would be cool. But to wrestle there would be awesome too. It'd be a different style, and it'd be wrestling someone who does not probably speak English like me. So I mean, it'd be kind of wild.
Definitely. Um, I had a mind fart. Do you predominantly just wrestle like in the Illinois area, or have you been able to travel like further out in the US? I know you mentioned, didn't you say you went out to like Kentucky?
Yeah, I went to Louisville. I've wrestled all over the Midwest. I still haven't gone anywhere farther, like West Coast or East Coast, but I know one day we will, and yeah, hopefully 2025 is that. Can you hear me?
Cut out. One of my AirPod died. My
Uh,
bad. So you said predominantly just in the Midwest?
yeah, basically.
Okay. Um, like there any states like that speak to you that you'd like to go to, like in New York or Los Angeles or something like that?
Texas is one of them, California, and New York. I feel like,
Okay.
or those areas, you know what I mean? Or Canada. Canada's another one too that I feel like is possible. That I just haven't had the chance. But Canada, I'd love to wrestle in Canada.
Okay. Um, I I think we've gotten to the point where
Yeah,
I'm
you're
gonna
fine.
have to do some more research before I
Yeah.
ask you anything else.
Thank you for even having me here longer, man. This is cool as hell.
Course, Quintero, I really do appreciate it. You're super chill. I can't wait to have you on here again. Um, I'll have to. I guess I'll have to have more questions for you.
Yeah, let me know, man. We'll make it happen again, man. I like doing interviews, man. This is really cool.
Of course. Are you? Will you be at the next AEW show?
Yes, on the 28th.
Yep.
Yes, I will be there. I'm pretty sure
I'll
it's my
see.
December.
I'll see you there.
I'll see you there, man. AEW is also an awesome show. I think those are definitely worth going to.
Definitely, especially in the Chicago area. They're great.
Yeah.
Um, and then I actually um I know the January date. I don't know if it's been announced for CSW, but I am planning to go to that one too. So I'll see at both of them.
Definitely.
Definitely excited to see what comes next for Quintero and
That's what I.
what next we can talk about because
Yeah.
I'll have you on here all the time talking about shit.
Yeah.
All right, you have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. You too, man. Thank you.
Thank you.